guys, Moniz here, and welcome to my review of the Dell XPS 13. This is the 2018 model, the 9370, the model that's running the 8th gen Intel processors. Now when you first look at it, it looks a lot like last year's model. In fact, it's pretty much the exact same dimensions. One area that it's changed though is its thickness. It's now thinner, making it a lot easier to hold and a lot more portable to carry in your bag. The other big change is the keyboard deck. On last year's model, we had this beautiful carbon fiber deck that felt super awesome to touch, but it also got very dirty. This year they got rid of the carbon fiber and switched it out for a woven fiber. The difference is a very hard material, and I'll be honest, it feels a lot cheaper, but it's a lot more durable, meaning if you spill something on it, it's resistant, so it's not going to get dirty. In fact, Dell says you can actually use a permanent marker right on it and still be able to take it off. The other big change was the port setup. You see, last year when you bought this laptop, you got a USB Type-A port and a full-size SD card slot. This year they went all USB Type-C. So on the left you get two Thunderbolt 3 ports which share 4 PCIe lanes, and on the right-hand side you get one USB Type-C 3.1 Gen 2 port, which is capable of powering the laptop and of course hooking up a monitor. The other difference is instead of a full-size SD card slot, you get a micro SD card instead. Now, I'm glad there's still external storage, but I think an SD card is a lot more useful than a micro SD card, especially considering that Dell markets these laptops towards professional creative consumers. Now, if you're looking for a laptop where you can upgrade down the road, not much is upgradable inside. I mean, everything is pretty much soldered onto the motherboard, even the Wi-Fi card. The only thing that you can swap out is the M2 NVMe SSD. It gets good read and write speeds, but the one in here is only 256 gigabytes, so if you want something bigger, you can replace it down the road. The battery in here is a little bit smaller than last year's model, which I'll talk about later, and you get two fans even in the i5 model instead of one. So that helps with heat management, and of course if you hook up an eGPU, you should get better thermal output. The display on the XPS 13 is fantastic. It's full HD, it's not touch, and it's IPS. The only thing that I would have loved to see is having a matte display instead of one with a glass panel going across, because you would have got a lot less reflection when you're in a sunny situation. Color accuracy is fantastic. Colors are punchy, they're vibrant. Creative professionals will have no problem doing their design work on this. Everything looks great. The one area that kind of shocked me was how bright this screen gets. You see, the average for most laptops is around 300 nits of brightness. This one has 450, so it's really good when you're in a bright situation, you're outdoors and you need to see your screen. In fact, the only other laptop that I tested this year in 2018 that has a screen this bright is the Huawei MateBook X Pro. Now you still have that beautiful infinity edge, and with that does come some compromises. For example, the webcam is still on the bottom. This time it comes with Windows Hello and it's not placed on the left, it's directly in the middle. Unfortunately, it still stares up your nose, and unfortunately it's still 720p, so it's a little bit grainy. It really doesn't look the best, but I mean, this is pretty much average for most laptops, and the microphone quality sounds like this. Sound is coming out of two speakers on the sides of the laptop. It gets very loud, which is great for watching movies and consuming media. It's not perfect, it's a bit tinny, but overall they're pretty good speakers. There's Dolby Atmos support, so if you do have a good pair of headphones, you can take advantage of that. And of course, it has software in here to fine-tune the equalization settings. Keyboard is pretty identical to last year's model as well. It's still a bit mushy, a little bit more of an actuation force. I don't like where the page up and page down keys are. It gets in the way if you're using the arrow keys, but overall it's a great keyboard. The trackpad below is made out of glass. It's using Windows precision drivers and still one of the better trackpads you're going to use on a Windows laptop. Performance is really good on the XPS 13. Even though I'm using the i5 model, my typical day-to-day stuff just runs fine. Browsing the web, working in Microsoft Office, even using Adobe Photoshop works great on this laptop. The big difference compared to last year's model is the fact that you get 2 extra cores to work with the same TDP. The benefit to that is when you use applications that can take advantage of more than 2 cores. So transcoding video, maybe Adobe Photoshop, anything that's intensive enough to really utilize those extra CPUs. You're not going to see a big speed increase when you do general stuff like browsing the web, but you will see the big speed difference when you use those more intensive applications. Now, you're not going to play AAA games on this. It's not meant to do that, but it can handle some older titles. And if you do want to play AAA games, you can either buy the XPS 15 for a dedicated GPU, or hook up an external GPU to this one and game that way. Heat management is pretty good, getting about 43 degrees Celsius on the surface of the laptop. It never felt hot to the touch. CPU temperatures did get a little high and then it would start to thermal throttle, averaging around 75 degrees Celsius. It wasn't thermal throttling to the point where things were unusable, but did thermal throttle, but I wouldn't be too concerned about it. I'd be more concerned if you're hooking up an eGPU and gaming for long periods of time, but overall it handles it quite well. Noise is also really good, 33 degrees or 33 decibels on the low end when it's idle, and about 38 decibels on the high end. So you do hear the fans, but they're not really loud. And finally, battery life. I'm getting about 10 hours of use before needing to charge. I mean, this is not leading the industry by any means, but it's still really good considering they reduced the size of the battery. The good news is if you really want to, you can use any of the USB Type-C ports to charge your laptop, which makes it pretty versatile. So here are my closing thoughts. The Dell XPS 13 2018 is still the gold standard of Windows Ultrabooks, at least to me. I think there's not a lot of big improvements from last year, but a lot of small ones that just make this a more refined product. The display is still absolutely gorgeous, great for creative professionals, and it gets extremely bright. The sound is nice and loud, even though it's a bit tinny. It's very durable, it's very portable, and this year is even thinner, making it easier to fit in your bag. Now, it's not perfect. I do wish they kept the USB Type-A port, and I also wish there was a full-size SD card slot. The keyboard is good, but it's not great, and I do wish they placed the webcam in a better position. Overall, all these improvements add up to a much better Ultrabook than it was last year. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you guys still like the Dell XPS 13, or is there something out there that you think is better? Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, and I'll talk to you in the next video.